Long live Vaughn. Yo yo yo, hold on. Hold on. Before y'all even scroll past this video, I need you to stop what you're doing right now. Put the phone down, pause the music, tell whoever's next to you to be quiet, because what I'm about to tell you is gonna have the entire internet going crazy today. You already know King Von's death never fully made sense to a lot of people. November 6th, 2020, Atlanta, Georgia. A night that shook the whole rap game to its core. We lost one of the realest storytellers to ever touch a microphone. But 5 years later, 5 years, the questions ain't going away. They getting louder. And now? King Yella, the same King Yella who been watching, been listening, been sitting on information, has finally opened his mouth. And what came out? Baby, it is not what anybody expected. Because Yella ain't just talking about the shooting outside that hookah lounge. Nah, he's talking about what happened inside that hospital. Behind them closed doors. When the cameras was off and the doctors was scrambling. And the name he dropped? E-Dog. O-Block's own E-Dog. Somebody close to Vaughn. Somebody who was there. Stay. Right. Here. Alright y'all, let's go back. Let's go all the way back to November 6th, 2020. Atlanta, Georgia. A Friday night. The kind of night where the city is alive, the music is loud, the vibes is high, and nobody could have predicted what was about to go down outside the Monaco hookah lounge. King Von, Davon Daquan Bennett, one of the most gifted street storytellers to ever pick up a mic, walked into that night as a rising superstar. A young man from O-Block, Chicago's South Side, who had turned his pain into platinum, who had turned his stories into anthems, who had Lil Durk in his corner, OTF behind him, and millions of fans worldwide screaming his name. That night was supposed to be just another night. But the streets don't care about your trajectory. The streets don't care about your streaming numbers or your upcoming album or the people who love you. And by the time that sun came up on November 7th, King Von was gone. And the world has never been the same since. Now most of y'all know the official story. An altercation broke out between Von's crew and Quando Rondo's camp. Shots were fired. Off-duty police officers who were working security got involved. Von was struck multiple times and rushed to Grady Memorial Hospital, where he was later pronounced dead. That's the story the news ran. That's the story that went around the world. But here's what nobody talked about. Here's what got buried under the grief and the tributes and the RIP posts. What actually happened inside that hospital? What went down in those final hours when Von was fighting for his life behind closed doors? Because there are people out there, people who were close to that situation, who have been saying for years that the official story doesn't cover everything. That there were moments, decisions, conversations that happened in that hospital that the public never heard about. And for 5 years, most of those people stayed quiet. Out of respect. Out of fear. Out of loyalty. But loyalty has an expiration date sometimes. And apparently, King Yella's just hit his. Now for those who don't know King Yella, let me give you the context because it matters here. King Yella is a Chicago rapper, Gangsta Disciples affiliated, Ada Block, Skis World, been in the Chicago street rap scene for years. And Yella is not somebody who bites his tongue. This man has called out Lil Durk. He has gone back and forth with Chief Keef. He took NBA Youngboy's side in the O-Block beef. King Yella does not sit down and shut up. That is not in his DNA. But even Yella, even this man, had been quiet about certain specific details surrounding Von's death. And people in the comments, people in the streets, people who follow this drama closely, they noticed. They've been asking, why Yella stay silent on the hospital situation specifically? What does he know that he ain't saying? Well, consider that silence officially broken. Because in a recent interview that has since been pulled from multiple platforms, we'll get into why it got pulled in a second, King Yella sat down and he talked. And when I tell you he talked, I mean he talked. No filter. No handler telling him to chill. No lawyer whispering in his ear. Just Yella, a camera, and years worth of built-up information coming out all at once. And the name that came out of his mouth, the name that has sent shockwaves through Chicago, through the rap community, through O-Block circles specifically, was E-Dog. E-Dog O'Block. One of the original members of O-Block. A man who was there from the beginning. A man who knew Vaughn not as a rapper, not as a celebrity, but as a young kid from the block who grew up and made it, or tried to. According to Yella, E-Dog was present or had direct knowledge of conversations that happened around Vaughn's hospitalization. And Yella's claim, and again we are reporting what Yella said, make of it what you will, was that E-Dog knows things about what went down in that hospital that have never been made public. That decisions were made. That certain people were contacted. That the timeline that the public was given and the actual timeline of events inside that hospital do not match up the way they should. Now before y'all start going crazy in the comments, let me be clear. King Yella is a controversial figure. He has beef with half of Chicago. He has motivations that are not always transparent. This is not a man who speaks without agenda. But here's the thing about Yella that even his haters have to admit. When he brings names, when he brings specifics, when he brings details, he don't usually pull them out of thin air. He moves reckless sometimes, yes. But he moves reckless with receipts. And the level of detail he went into about E-Dog specifically, the specific timeline references, the specific location details about which wing of that hospital certain conversations allegedly took place, that is not the kind of thing you make up on the spot. That is the kind of thing that comes from either being there or being very close to someone who was. And here is where this story gets even deeper. Because E-Dog O'Block, is not just some random name. This is a man who has spoken publicly about King Vaughn before. He went on record saying that Vaughn wasn't the demon that the media portrayed him as. He spoke about Vaughn's character, about who he really was as a person. So there is an established connection there. There is an established relationship between E-Dog and Vaughn's world. And now King Yella is saying that connection goes deeper than a neighborhood bond, that E-Dog was plugged into information about Vaughn's final hours that most people in Vaughn's own camp don't even have access to. Think about what that means. Think about who would have that kind of access and why. Think about the layers of that situation and what it suggests about who was really in that room, who was really making calls, and who decided what the public would and would not be told. Now I want to talk about why that interview got pulled. Because this is important context. Within hours of that footage circulating, and it was circulating, people were sharing it, clips were going everywhere, it disappeared. Off the original platform it was posted on. Off the repost accounts that had grabbed it. Even some of the reaction videos that had already gone up were hit with content flags. Now in 2025, content getting pulled is not automatically suspicious. Platforms take stuff down all the time for all kinds of reasons. But the speed at which this particular interview vanished, and the fact that it happened right as the clip featuring E-Dog's name was getting the most traction, that is a coincidence that a lot of people in these streets are not willing to accept as just a coincidence. People are asking who made the calls to get that content removed. People are asking whether it was a platform decision or whether pressure came from somewhere else. And the fact that we can't definitively answer that question right now is itself a part of the story. Because here is what we do know. King Yella is not backing down. Even after the interview got pulled, Yella took to social media and made it clear, he said what he said. He is not retracting. He is not apologizing. And he is suggesting that there is more where that came from. That what came out in that interview was just the surface. That the full picture of what E-Dog knows, and by extension what certain people connected to that hospital situation know, goes much, much deeper than anything that has been public-facing up to this point. And he ended one of his posts with something that stopped a lot of people cold. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here because the original post has also since been deleted, he said that when the full truth comes out about that hospital, it's going to change how people look at certain individuals who have been playing the role of grieving loved ones ever since November 2020. Y'all let that sit for a second. Let that breathe. Because Yella is not just talking about a conspiracy theory here. He is not just throwing shade at a dead man's legacy. He is pointing a finger, a very specific finger, at living people. People who have been in the public eye. People who have built careers and narratives partly on the foundation of their relationship to King Vaughn. And he is saying that E-Dog O'Block's own, one of the originals, is the key to unlocking what those people don't want unlocked. Now the question everybody is asking is simple. Will E-Dog respond? Will he confirm, deny, or stay silent. Because his silence up to this point has been noted. And in the court of public opinion, silence after an accusation this specific, this detailed, this targeted, silence starts to look like something. And the longer it goes on, the louder it gets. This thing gets truly explosive, because now we gotta talk about the timeline. The actual minute-by-minute breakdown of what happened that night and the hours that followed. Because when you lay it all out, when you put every piece of information that has come out over the last 5 years side by side, the gaps start to show. And those gaps are exactly what King Yella is pointing at when he says E-Dog knows what happened in that hospital. So let's go back to the night of November 6th. The altercation outside Monaco Hookah Lounge happened somewhere around 3 a.m. Atlanta time. Shots are fired. Vaughn goes down. Now what the public was told is that Vaughn was rushed to Grady Memorial Hospital and that he passed away shortly after arrival. That is the broad strokes version. But people who were following the situation in real time, fans, bloggers, people with sources close to both camps, they noticed something. The information coming out of that hospital in those early morning hours was inconsistent. Different accounts were saying different things about Vaughn's condition. Some people were saying he was stable. Some people were saying it was critical. There was a window of time, and this has been documented across multiple platforms and fan accounts from that night, where the narrative about Vaughn's condition kept shifting. And in that shifting, in that confusion, certain people who should have been at that hospital were not there. And certain people who perhaps shouldn't have had access were reportedly present. Now Yella is not the first person to point this out. But he is the first person to attach E-Dog's name specifically to knowledge of what was happening inside during that window. And that is what makes this different from every other conspiracy theory that has floated around Vaughn's death over the years. Because see, most of the theories about Vaughn's death focus on the shooting itself. Who shot first? Whether the off-duty officers acted appropriately. Whether Quando Rondo's camp had prior knowledge that there would be conflict that night. Those are the conversations that have dominated for 5 years. But Yella is steering the conversation somewhere different. He is saying the shooting is not where the real questions are. The real questions are about what happened after. About who made decisions in that hospital. About who was communicating with who while Vaughn was on that operating table. About whether everything that could have been done was done. And about whether the people closest to Vaughn in that moment were acting in his interest, or in someone else's. Now I know some of y'all are thinking, Yella is just stirring up drama. Yella has beef with O-Block, and this is just another way to poke at them. And look, that is a fair and reasonable thing to consider. We are not here to take Yella's word as gospel. But here is what makes this particular situation harder to dismiss than usual. Multiple people, not just Yella, but people in Chicago circles who have zero reason to be publicly aligned with Yella, have privately been saying for years that the hospital situation was not clean. That there are people walking around right now who know more than they have said. And when Yella brought E-Dog's name into it specifically, the reaction from certain quarters of Chicago was not the loud, immediate denial you would expect if it was purely fabricated. Let me tell you about a conversation that allegedly took place, and I want to be transparent with y'all. This is sourced from people close to the situation who are not willing to go on record, so take it with that understanding. But allegedly, in the days after Yella's interview started circulating, there were phone calls being made within O-Block's inner circle specifically about the E-Dog mention. Not about Yella in general, about that specific detail. About why Yella knew that name in connection with that hospital. About who could have told him. And that conversation, that internal scramble to figure out where the leak came from, tells you something. Because you don't scramble to find a leak if there is nothing to leak. You don't have emergency phone calls about a name someone mentioned if that name has no real significance to the situation. The reaction within the circle is sometimes more revealing than anything said publicly. And what we are hearing about the reaction within certain circles to Yella naming E-Dog is that it caused genuine alarm. Not anger. Not dismissal. Alarm. Now let's talk about E-Dog himself for a minute, because his positioning in all of this is fascinating. This is a man who has been very deliberate about his public image. He has spoken about Vaughn with respect and emotion. He has positioned himself as one of the OGs who carries the legacy of O-Block with integrity. He runs O-Block Records. He has built something legitimate in the music industry. He has every reason to want distance from drama, from conspiracy, from anything that could destabilize what he has built. And yet, here is his name, attached to one of the most sensitive and unresolved questions in recent rap history, by a man who is known to carry information. And E-Dog has said nothing. Not a post. Not a story. Not a vague reference. Nothing. And his people, the people around him, have also been silent. And I need y'all to think about that silence in context. Because this is 2025. We live in an era where everybody responds to everything immediately. Where rappers are making diss tracks within hours of being mentioned. Where a single tweet can generate a 30-minute response video by sunset. E-Dog is a man with a platform, with a voice, with an audience, and with a reputation to protect. And King Yella just put his name in one of the most explosive allegations connected to one of the most beloved rappers of this generation. The silence is deafening. And now here is where another layer gets added to this entire situation that I have not even gotten to yet. Because it is not just E-Dog who has been silent. It is the people who were closest to Von in his final years, the OTF side of his life, who have also not addressed what Yella said. Now Lil Durk, as y'all know, has his own very serious legal situation right now. He is locked up facing murder for hire charges connected to the Quando Rondo situation, the very person connected to Von's death, and his trial is coming up. So Durk responding to anything publicly right now is not realistic. But there are others in the OTF camp. There are people who speak for that family publicly. And the choice not to address Yella's claims about E-Dog in the hospital, when they have addressed other things, when they have responded to other rumors, that selective silence is something that Yella himself pointed out in a follow-up post that also conveniently disappeared from the internet within 24 hours. He said, and again I am paraphrasing from what was screenshotted before the post went down, he said that he found it interesting that certain people who defend Von's name on a daily basis had nothing to say about what he revealed. That the people who jump at every perceived disrespect to Von's legacy were suddenly unbothered when Yella named E-Dog and questioned the hospital timeline. And he said that silence was confirmation. That in his mind, the fact that nobody with real proximity to that situation came out swinging to call him a liar, the way they would if he was just making things up, told him everything he needed to know about whether his information was close to the truth. Now fans online have been losing it over this. The comment sections on every platform where this story has been discussed are absolutely on fire. You have people who have been Von fans since day one saying they always felt something was off about the official account of that night. You have people defending E-Dog and saying Yella is a known agitator who will say anything for attention. You have people tagging Von's family members, tagging OTF artists, tagging E-Dog directly, demanding answers, demanding responses, demanding someone in that circle speak up. And mixed in with all of that noise, you have a smaller but very vocal group of people who are saying they have their own information, their own pieces of the puzzle. People claiming to have been in Atlanta that night. People claiming to have sources inside Grady Memorial who told them things that never made the news. And while a lot of that is almost certainly exaggerated or fabricated, because that is the nature of the internet, the sheer volume of people claiming to have adjacent knowledge of the situation suggests that the information Yella is drawing from did not emerge from a vacuum. Because the streets talk. They always have. And sometimes the streets talk for 5 years in whispers before somebody finally says it loud enough for the whole world to hear. King Yella said it loud. E-Dog's name is now attached to this story in a way that cannot be quietly walked back. And the question of what really happened in that hospital, in those hours between when Von was rushed in and when the world was told he was gone, is louder right now than it has ever been. But what we have not talked about yet, what we have been building toward this entire time, is the specific detail that Yella revealed about what E-Dog allegedly knows. Not just that he has information, but what that information is. And when I tell y'all what Yella claimed E-Dog witnessed or was told, it is going to reframe this entire situation in a way that you are not prepared for. And when I tell y'all what Yella claimed E-Dog witnessed or was told, it is going to reframe this entire situation in a way that you are not prepared for. Because up until this point, everything we have discussed has been about gaps and silences and inconsistencies. About timelines that don't quite line up and reactions that don't quite make sense. But now we are getting into the specific allegation. The actual claim that Yella made before that interview got scrubbed from every corner of the internet. And this is the part that has people in Chicago genuinely shack. According to King Yella, and what he says he was told by someone who was physically present in and around Grady Memorial Hospital on the night of November 6th into the early morning of November 7th, there was a conversation that took place in that hospital. Not a medical conversation. Not a conversation between doctors and family about Vaughn's condition. A different kind of conversation. A conversation between individuals who were present at that hospital that night about what story was going to be told. About how the events of that night were going to be framed publicly. About which details would come out and which details would stay in that building. And Yella's claim is that E-Dog was either directly part of that conversation or was told about it in explicit detail by someone who was. That E-Dog has been carrying knowledge of what was decided in that hospital, what narrative was constructed and why, for 5 years. And that he has stayed quiet about it not because he doesn't know but because he made a choice. A deliberate, conscious choice to protect certain people and certain information at the expense of the full truth about what happened to Vaughn. Now let that land for a second. Because if Yella's claim is even partially accurate, if there was any kind of conversation in that hospital about controlling the narrative around Vaughn's death before his family had even been fully notified, before the world had even confirmed he was gone, that is not just a conspiracy theory. That is a betrayal. That is people who claimed to love Vaughn, people who stood at his funeral and cried and posted RIP and built their whole public persona around being loyal to his memory, potentially having participated in or been aware of a deliberate effort to manage and shape what the public was told about his final hours. And E-Dog, according to Yella, is one of the people who has been holding that secret. One of the people who knows exactly where the official story ends and the real story begins. And here is the detail that Yella dropped that nobody has been able to stop talking about. He claimed, and this is the part that is truly explosive, that Vaughn was conscious for longer than the public was led to believe. That there was a period of time in that hospital where Vaughn was aware, where Vaughn was communicating, however limitedly, and that in that window certain people who were present made decisions about who got access to him and who didn't. That family members, people with every right to be in that building, every right to be at his side, were being managed. Were being told things about his condition that did not reflect what was actually happening in that room. And that the reason for that management, the reason certain people were being kept at a distance during that window, was because of conversations happening simultaneously about legal exposure, about what Vaughn may have said or indicated about the events of that night, and about how certain parties needed to get ahead of potential fallout before the sun came up. Now I cannot stress enough, this is King Yella's account. This is what he says he was told. We do not have independent verification of these specific claims, and we are not presenting them as established fact. But what we can tell you is that the reaction to these specific details, particularly the claim about Vaughn being conscious longer than reported and about family members being managed, has been unlike anything we have seen in years of covering Chicago rap drama. People who are usually very vocal in defending O-Block, in defending everyone connected to Vaughn's circle, have gone completely dark on this specific topic. And people who have absolutely no stake in Chicago politics, no dog in this fight, no reason to care either way, they are reading Yella's claims and saying it fits. It fits with things they heard in passing. It fits with accounts that circulated briefly in those first chaotic hours after Vaughn died and then disappeared just as quickly. It fits with the behavior of certain individuals in the weeks and months following Vaughn's death. The way some people seemed almost too composed, too prepared, too ready with the right words at the right time. And now think about E-Dog's position in all of this from a human perspective. Put aside the rap politics for a second. Put aside the street politics. If this man genuinely has knowledge of something significant that happened in that hospital, if he has been carrying that for 5 years, what does that do to a person? Because E-Dog, by all accounts, is not a cold or unfeeling person. He spoke about Vaughn with genuine emotion. He has talked about the losses O-Block has suffered with Rayal Payne. So if Yella is right, if E-Dog knows something real, then E-Dog is not just a man with a secret. He is a man living with a choice he made 5 years ago that he has to live with every single day. Every time Vaughn's music plays. Every time somebody posts a throwback. Every time somebody says, "Long live Vaughn," E-Dog has to sit with whatever he knows. And that is either the weight of a man who made the wrong choice under impossible pressure, or it is the burden of a man who is still, to this day, choosing silence over truth. And King Yella, reckless as he is, agenda-driven as he undeniably is, seems to understand that. Because the most striking thing about how Yella talked about E-Dog in that interview was not the anger. People expected anger from Yella. What was striking was that there were moments where Yella almost sounded like he was giving E-Dog an out. Like he was saying, "This man knows the truth and I believe part of him wants to say it." That the silence is not comfortable for E-Dog. That it never has been. And Yella's position, stated directly before that interview disappeared, was that he is not going to stop talking until E-Dog does. That he will keep putting this story in front of the public, keep attaching E-Dog's name to it, keep making it impossible for the narrative to be quietly buried, until the man speaks for himself. Because at the end of the day, that is what this comes down to. Not Yella's agenda. Not O-Block politics. Not even the legal complications surrounding everyone connected to that night and its aftermath. It comes down to whether the people who were in that hospital with Vaughn, or who had knowledge of what happened in that hospital, are ever going to speak honestly. Whether the fans, the family, the millions of people worldwide who genuinely loved King Vaughn are ever going to get a complete and truthful account of his final hours. Whether the story that was constructed in those dark early morning hours of November 7th, 2020 is the story that history is going to accept, or whether someone eventually is going to crack. The streets are watching. The fans are waiting. And King Yella has made it very clear, he is not going anywhere. He started this conversation and he intends to finish it. Whether E-Dog wants to participate or not. And that is where we are right now. King Yella has dropped a bomb, a detailed, specific, named accusation that connects E-Dog directly to undisclosed knowledge about King Vaughn's final hours in that Atlanta hospital. The interview is gone, but the words are not. The name is out there, and it cannot be taken back. E-Dog has not responded. OTF has not responded. And the silence from every corner of this situation is speaking volumes to the people paying attention. The questions that remain are the ones that matter most. Will E-Dog speak? Will someone else from that inner circle break ranks before Yella escalates further? Is there documentation, footage, phone records, witness accounts that could either support or destroy Yella's claims? And perhaps most importantly, does Vaughn's blood family know what Yella is alleging? And if they do, what do they think? We do not have those answers today, but we are going to keep watching. Keep digging. Keep bringing you every development as it happens, because this story is nowhere near over. Now I need to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Do you believe King Yella? Do you think E-Dog needs to speak up? Do you think this is real information or just Yella doing what Yella does? Because the comments section on this one is going to be wild and I want to see every opinion. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button right now because this is the kind of coverage we bring every single day. No fluff. No fake love. Just the raw, unfiltered truth about what is really happening in these streets and in this culture. Hit the like button if this video gave you something to think about. Share it with somebody who needs to see it. And stay locked in because the next video is already in the works and trust me, it connects directly to everything we just talked about today. Long live Vaughn. The truth is still out there. And somebody out here knows it.